There was a massive volcanic eruption in Indonesia yesterday. Lava and ash were hurled miles into the sky. An entire island had to be evacuated. We take a look at the original apocalyptic footage and find out what the consequences could be. Stay tuned until the end. Welcome, friends. Wow, what happened in Indonesia yesterday really takes your breath away. I produced this video for you as quickly as possible and even went to my studio before my second coffee. If you appreciate this decaffeinated sacrifice and you're new to the channel, I'd be delighted if you subscribed. It's absolutely free and you'll never miss a galactic video again. Thank you very much. So what exactly happened? The volcano Ruang on the island of the same name has absolutely exploded. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Let's first take a look at what kind of volcano we're dealing with here. Ruang Island is part of the Sangihe archipelago north of Sulawesi. The active stratovolcano there rises 725 meters above sea level and is known for its explosive activity, which has always made it a massive geological hazard in the region. Ruang is one of the more than 120 active volcanoes in Indonesia, a country located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a zone with some of the most frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions in the world. To give you a better idea of the scale, 90% of all earthquakes worldwide originate in this zone on the Pacific Ring of Fire. That's a crazy number. The Ruang is a stratovolcano, and they are usually known for their steep sides and cone-shaped structure, which is formed by the accumulation of lava, ash, and other volcanic material ejected during eruptions. The lava that flows from stratovolcanoes like Ruang is usually viscous and slow-moving. This is, of course, generally advantageous for local residents when it comes to evacuation, but we'll come back to that in a moment. The lava then cools, resulting in sharp-edged shapes that form the characteristic terrain of this type of volcano. And the composition of the magma found in stratovolcanoes is rich in silica, which leads to a high degree of viscosity and pressurizes the gas bubbles in the magma. This leads to a slow movement, as mentioned, but on the other hand, it leads to a buildup of pressure that results in highly explosive eruptions, in which large amounts of volcanic material are thrown into the atmosphere, creating pyroclastic flows that are feared for both their heat and destructive power. The Ruang is no stranger to eruptions. One of its most violent eruptions took place in 1871. This violent eruption caused part of the volcano to collapse into the sea, triggering a devastating tsunami. The 1871 tsunami claimed 400 lives and left a trail of destruction across the neighboring islands. The historic eruption is a clear example of the destructive power of the Ruang, which it has now demonstrated once again. In addition to large eruptions, the Ruang has also repeatedly experienced a series of smaller eruptions. These smaller eruptions were often accompanied by ash emissions, which affected the air quality and caused health problems for the inhabitants. One would think that local residents would have a certain aversion to the volcano because of these events. I mean, if someone was regularly spewing lava and tsunamis on my doorstep, I probably wouldn't be too sympathetic. But for the people on and around Ruang, the volcano has a deep spiritual significance. It is seen as a powerful force of nature that commands respect and reverence. Many legends and myths revolve around the power of the volcano and the deep-rooted respect that people have for it is impressive. It reminds me a little of the relationship between the people of Naples and Vesuvius, where I filmed an extensive documentary about the southern Italian volcanoes in January. And although people there are of course aware of the destructive power of Vesuvius and the Campi Flegrei, they are somehow part of life. It's a kind of unshakable optimism that really impressed me in Napoli. But back to Indonesia. Now it's that time again, and unfortunately it's not a small eruption, but a really massive one. After a period of relative calm, the Ruang volcano has reawakened violently with a series of eruptions that have been taking place since Tuesday night. Check out this incredible shot here. I think the power of the volcano is really evident here. This recent activity has prompted the Indonesian authorities to declare the highest alert level and initiate extensive evacuation measures. The volcano began its current phase of activity late Tuesday evening when it suddenly ejected clouds of ash and red-hot lava several thousand meters into the air. Here we see satellite images from the Cooperative Institute for Research in the Atmosphere, CIRA for short. We can see ash and carbon dioxide rising thousands of meters into the atmosphere as a result of the explosive eruption. Over the first few hours after the initial activity, the eruptions intensified and at least 5 major eruptions were recorded. For the Indonesian Volcanology and Geological Hazard Mitigation Authority, it was immediately clear: maximum danger level and evacuation. The eruptions resulted in gigantic columns of ash reaching up to 3,000 meters into the sky and the emission of pyroclastic flows, a deadly mixture of hot gases, ash and volcanic rock moving down the slopes of the volcano at high speed. These flows are particularly dangerous as they can burn and destroy anything in their path. And due to the severity of the eruption and the potential risks of the volcano collapsing into the sea, which could trigger a tsunami as in the past, the 800 residents of Ruang were evacuated, mainly to Tagulandang Island, which serves as a safe haven. This rapid response was intended to prevent deaths on the island itself. However, it quickly became clear that we were really dealing with a violent phase of activity and that an even larger scale evacuation was necessary. Abdul Mohari, head of the Center for Disaster Data and Communication, says, at least 11,615 residents who are in the risk area need to be evacuated to a safe place. Due to ash clouds and tsunami hazards, the risk area extends not only to Ruang itself, but to a huge island area around it. The whole thing is somewhat reminiscent of the eruption of the Krakatau volcano in 2018, when the Anak Krakatau volcano in Indonesia also erupted violently, causing a significant part of its crater to collapse into the sea. The collapse triggered a tsunami that hit the coasts of the main Indonesian islands of Java and Sumatra. Over 400 people lost their lives and thousands were injured. Coastal settlements and infrastructure were severely damaged. Let's hope it doesn't come to that this time, but the widespread evacuation is intended to counteract this. Even less extensive eruptions in Indonesia, i.e. those without tsunamis, are often fatal. In December 2023, the bodies of 11 hikers were found on the slopes of Mount Merapi on Sumatra after an eruption also spewed a column of ash almost 3 kilometers into the air. Let's take another quick look at this incredible shot from just now. In another video, some of you asked me why there is so much lightning during volcanic eruptions. Very good question. It can of course be a coincidence, but there is often a connection. It's called an eruption thunderstorm. During a volcanic eruption, huge quantities of ash, dust, and other particles are hurled into the atmosphere with great force. When these particles rise, they collide and rub against each other. This friction generates static electricity. Similar to thunderclouds, where ice particles rub against each other, for example, this accumulation of static charge in the ash cloud leads to strong electric fields. If the electric field becomes strong enough, a discharge occurs in the form of lightning. In addition, the intense heat and the release of gases such as sulfur dioxide during a volcanic eruption ionize the surrounding air, i.e. charge it with energy. Ionized air conducts electricity better and can therefore serve as a medium for this discharge. It is very likely that we can see such an eruption thunderstorm in this image of Ruang. Whenever you see something like this, you somehow feel a mixture of fear and anxiety for the people who live there and absolute fascination, don't you? Let me know in the comments if you feel the same way. As soon as there's anything new about the situation in Indonesia, I'll keep you up to date. Of course, this is only possible if you follow the channel, so make sure you subscribe and activate the bell so that you don't miss any new videos. And don't miss the video shown here, it's also super exciting. And if you want to support my work, take a look at the Astro shop. There you'll find plush planets and the t-shirts from the videos. Otherwise, I'd say see you in the next video. Take care, friends.